Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare.
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopi Kante Radha Kante Namostute Tapti Kanchan Gorangi Radhe Vrindaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya. तो श्री राधे गोलोकानंद भगवान की
Jai.
हरे कृष्णा एवरीवन.
Hare Krishna.
So after a nice weekend, I guess, back to Srimad
Yes.
Bhagvatam. So we have been reading Adhyay 5 from Cantos 2, Adhyay 5, and last time we read all those 4 shloks, at the same time, and there was a deep description of this. So I think we will just revise this. And as you know, right, अभी क्या चल रहा है? Lord ब्रह्मा जी नारद जी को बता रहे हैं, उनके प्रश्नों का उत्तर दे रहे हैं. और क्या प्रश्न थे नारद जी के? Anyone remember?
Name is Parikshit Maharaj.
Did you create this world, or who is the creator?
Right.
And what are the responsibilities of the mankind?
Right. So Parikshit Maharaj ने पूछा था सुखदेव गोस्वामी जी को, and Sukhdev Goswami ji is reciting this. So while informing this, Sukhdev Goswami ji कह रहे हैं कि आप जो प्रश्न पूछ रहे हो, सेम प्रश्न नारद जी ने पूछे थे ब्रह्मा जी को. राइट. सो नारद जी ने लॉर्ड ब्रह्मा को सिमिलर क्वेश्चंस पूछे थे, और ब्रह्मा जी ने जो उत्तर नारद जी को दिया है इज द सेम क्वेश्चन, सेम आंसर फॉर परीक्षित महाराज एज वेल एंड फॉर ऑल ऑफ अस. राइट. सो ब्रह्मा जी इसका आंसर दे रहे हैं कि ये वर्ल्ड कैसे क्रिएट किया गया, इसके पीछे क्या एनर्जी है, क्या बैकग्राउंड है, इसका कौन क्रिएटर है. ब्रह्मा जी आप स्वयं हैं या कोई और है, आप किसकी तपस्या करते हैं. सो ये सारे क्वेश्चंस नारद जी ने पूछे हैं और इसी का जवाब लॉर्ड ब्रह्मा दे रहे हैं. सो जब लॉर्ड ब्रह्मा इसको डिस्क्राइब कर रहे हैं तो वी रेड दोज श्लोक्स, बट आई थिंक इसका पर्पस बड़ा ही बढ़िया है. सो आई थिंक विल जस्ट रीड दिस अगेन, just a part of it, like from here. And you know, there are those five elements we saw: sky, air, fire, water, and earth. Yeah. So from Satogun, Rajogun, Tamogun, and then how the sky and then all these 5 elements generate are described. And then what is being mentioned is that they are all mutually the cause and effect of one another. But, right, so like in the last verse, and actually we'll read it in also the purport, how from sky you get the air and then fire and then water and earth. So everything, they were saying they are mutually the cause and effect of one another. But the original cause is the Lord himself in plenary portion. Like where all this is getting generated is from Lord Sri Krishna. As how? As Mahavishnu lying in the casual water of the Mahat Tattva. So we describe Lord Krishna, then Karnodakshaya Vishnu, and then Mahat Tattva. And from Mahat Tattva is in the middle, and then material world is getting generated. So as such, Lord Krishna is described in the Brahma Samhita as the cause of all causes. Yeah, Sarva Karan Karnam. And is then confirmed again in Bhagavad Gita 10.8, chapter 10 and Shlok 8. How? Aham sarvasya prabhavo matah sarvam parvarte iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhav samanvite. So that's what Lord Sri Krishna is saying. We'll just read this purport, Swam.
qualities of sense perception are fully represented in the earth, and they are manifested in other elements to a lesser extent. In the sky, there is sound only, whereas in the air, there are sound and touch. In the fire, there are sound, touch, and shape. And in the water, there is taste also. Along with the other perceptions, namely sound, touch, and shape. In the earth, however, there are all the above mentioned qualities with an extra development of aura also. Therefore, on the earth there is a full display of variegatiness of life, which is originally started with the basic principle of air. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, right? So much given in this paragraph itself, like the qualities of sense perception are represented on the earth. Yeah. But how did it happen? So in the sky, there is only sound. In the air, there is a sound and touch. Then in the fire, there is a sound, touch, and shape. Then in the water, you have a sound, touch, shape, and then there is a taste also in the water. Yeah. There is no taste in the air. Along with the other perceptions, namely sound, touch, and shape, right, in the water. And then in the earth, so you have all those things, sound, touch, shape, and air. And then you also have the extra qualities of order, sugandha. Yeah. So therefore, the earth has a full variegatedness of life. And then, there's again some other important facts. Shiva? Okay.
Diseases of the body take place due to the arrangement of air within the earthly body of the living things. Mental diseases result from special rearrangement of the air within the body, and as such, yogic exercise is especially beneficial to keep the air in order so that the diseases of the body become almost nil by such exercises. When they are properly done, the duration of life also increases, and one can have control over death also by such practices. A perfect yogi can have command over death and quit the body at the right moment when he is competent to transfer himself to a suitable planet. The bhakti yogi, however, surpasses all the yogis because by dint of his devotional service, he is promoted to the region beyond the material sky and is placed in one of the planets in the spiritual sky by the supreme will of the Lord, the controller of everything. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, right? तो इसको इसलिए पढ़ रहे हैं अपन कि few important points in this, right? One is that a perfect yogi can have command over death, right? But command over death doesn't mean he's going to live forever. But the command is can control the pranvayu, right? With the pranayam and all that, which actually means that he can quit the body at the right moment. Yeah. And what happens when he quit at the right moment? Then he's competent to transfer himself to a suitable planet, like the upper planets, right? We saw those 14 planets. But the most important fact mentioned in this is the bhakti yogi, right? So when you have the yogi, you do self-realization, you control the air, you do all those things, right? But the bhakti yogi with devotional service, however, surpasses all the yogis. And why is that? Because by dint of his devotional service, he is promoted to the region beyond the material sky. Yeah. So all these 14 loks, and then beyond that is a Vaikuntha lok. And what he's saying is the yogis can go to the upper loks, which are much better than the earth lok. But the devotional service, the bhakti yogi, is transferred beyond the material sky, right? And is placed in one of the planets in the spiritual sky, the Vaikuntha lok, by the supreme will of the Lord, who is the controller of everything. Yeah. So much knowledge and information in terms of those 5 elements, what a yogi can achieve, and then what a bhakti yogi can achieve. Yeah. So we'll just start with Shlok 30. Siksham Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, पढ़ेंगे आप?
वैकारिक मनोजज्ञे देव वैकारिका दशा दिग्वर्ता च प्रेचेतो विश्ववह्निर्द्रपेन्द्रमित्रिकः. From the mode of goodness, the mind is generated and become manifested, as also the 10 demigods controlling the bodily movements. Such demigods are known as the controller of directions, the controller of air, the sun god, the father of Daksha Prajapati, the Ashwini Kumaraj, the fire god, the king of heaven, the worshipable deity in the heaven, the chief of Adityas, and Brahmaji, the Prajapati, all coming into existence.
कृष्ण है। तो ब्रह्मा जी स्वयं बता रहे हैं कि कैसे इस यूनिवर्स की उत्पत्ति हो रही है, राइट। एंड एक दो श्लोक के पहले हमने देखा था कि द मोड ऑफ गुडनेस, हाउ द मोड ऑफ गुडनेस, रजोगुण, तमोगुण एंड सतोगुण, राइट, हाउ दैट गेट्स जनरेटेड. Then we saw about all these 5 elements. And now Brahmaji is saying is that what happens, right? From the mode of goodness, Satogun se, mind is generated. Okay, and then mind becomes manifest. And then what happens is your demigods controlling the body movements are manifested. Yeah, and those demigods are described here. Air control of the air, of the directions, and so on and so. Fire god, Agnidev, right? The king of heaven, Indradev, and of course the Brahmaji himself, the Prajapati, all come into existence. So that is the spiritual science. Yeah. Anilji?
जी तेज सात तु विकुर्वाणादि इंद्रियाणि दशा भवन ज्ञान शक्ति क्रिया शक्तिर्बुद्धि प्राणश्च तेजसो श्रोत्रम त्वघ्राण दृगिज्वा वागदोमेर्घ्राण घृपायवः. By further transformation of the mode of passion, the sense organs like the ear, skin, nose, eyes, tongue, mouth, hands, genitals, legs, and the outlet for evacuating, together with intelligence and living energy, are all generated. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Right. So earlier in the previous slok, mode of Satogun, right? Goodness. And from there, you have all the demigods and Prajapatis. Then from more patient, you have all the sense organs and everything else. Yeah. And Rinaji? Unmute पे.
Sorry about that. Okay. Get it right quickly. Okay. Yadaite asangata bhava bhutendriya manoguna yada yatan nirmane na shekur brahma vittam. O Narad, best of the transcendentalists, the forms of the body cannot take place as long as these created parts, namely the elements, senses, mind, and moods of nature are not assembled. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, right? So basic things. How do we get a computer, right? You assemble everything. You get a screen, you get or a car, for example, right? You get the transmission, the steering wheel, everything, and then you assemble together, put in an engine, and then the car goes. It's the same thing for a human body. So उस समय पे भी Lord Brahma जी बता रहे हैं नारद जी को कि all these forms of body cannot take place as long as all these created parts from Satogun, Rajogun are not assembled. Shivam? Can you read this last?
The parts of the body, such as the senses, are the creation of the Mahat Tattva, and when they are assembled by the will of the Lord, the material body comes into existence, and the living entity is allowed to use it for further activities. This is explained as follows. Hare
Yeah.
Krishna.
So we'll read more, but this is how the material body comes into existence. Ajay?
तदा संहित्य चान्योन्यं भगवच्छक्ति चोदिता सत्सत्वमुपादाय शोभभयं ससृजहार्द. Thus, when all these became assembled by force of the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this universe certainly came into being by accepting both the primary and the secondary cause of creation. Hare Krishna.
Krishna, right? And again, actually, so this verse is also, this purport is also very important. So we'll just read this through quickly. Soham?
In this verse, it is clearly mentioned that the Supreme Personality of Godhead exerts his different energies in the creation. It is not that he himself is transformed into material creations. He expands himself by his different energies as well as by his plenary portions. In a corner of the spiritual sky, a Brahma Jyoti of a spiritual cloud sometimes appears, and the covered portion is called Mahatattva. The Lord then, by his plenary portion as Mahavishnu, lies down within the water of the Mahatattva, and the water is called the casual open, Karana Jala, while Mahavishnu sleeps within the casual oceans. Innumerable universes are generated along with his breathing. These universes are floating and they are scattered all over the casual ocean. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, so you get how the casual ocean is there, which is Karanjal, Karnodakshaya Vishnu, right? And then there are so many universes scattered all over the place. Ours is just one small universe, right? And Mahatattva is pretty significant in this. Like, try to read about that if you can, right? And so let's just continue reading, Tarun.
They stay only during the breathing period of Mahavishnu. In each and every universal globe, the same Mahavishnu enters again as Garbhodakshayi Vishnu and lies there on the serpent-like Shesha incarnation. From his navel sprouts a lotus stem, and on the lotus, Brahma, the Lord of the universe, is born. Brahma creates all forms of living beings of different shapes in terms of different desires within the universe. He also creates the sun, moon, and other demigods. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, right? So little deep, right? But if you see in previous slokas, you see how Rajogun, Tamogun, Satogun, and then how the demigods, and then how the material world gets created from Mahat Tattva, right? And now it's also again describing like from Mahavishnu, right? Karnadaksha Vishnu, and then you have the casual ocean, then you have so many universes, yeah? And with one breathing period, only during the breathing period of Mahavishnu, each universe exists, right? And then once that happens in each universe, you have Garbhodakshaya Vishnu enters, right? So Mahavishnu manifests himself as a Garbhodakshaya Vishnu in each of the universe. And then from each Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, what happens is his navel sprouts a lotus stem, as we see, right? Brahmaji appearing from there, and then Brahmaji creates all the living entities in different shapes and body, right? We don't find this explanation in any of the science books, right? But this is the spiritual science, right? This is how the world has been created. But let's just read the final Shiva.
Therefore, the chief engineer of the material creation is the Lord himself, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. It is he only who directs the material nature to protect all sorts of moving and non-moving creations. There are two modes of material creation. The creation of collective universes, as stated above, done by the Mahavishnu, and the creation of the single universe. Both are done by the Lord, and thus the universal shape, as we can see, takes place. Hare Krishna.
Krishna, yeah. So that's really cool, Nisha.
Parshapug Sahasrante Tadandamudkeshayam Kalakarma Swabhavasto Jivo Ajiva Jivayat. Thus, all the universe remained thousands of eons within the water, the casual ocean, and the Lord of living beings entering in each of them caused them to be fully animated. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, right? So thousands of words, Pug Sahastra and Sachin.
स एव पुरुषस्त स्मादंड निर्भित्य निर्गतः सहस्रो वर्कग्रीवा सहस्रानन शीर्षवान्. The Lord Mahavishnu, although lying in the causal ocean, came out of it and dividing himself as Hiranyagarbha, he entered into each universe and assumed the Virata Rupa with thousands of legs, arms, mouths, heads, etc. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, right? So we had read about the Virat Swarup. That's what is described. Sumit?
यस्य हवाय विलोरकान् कल्पयन्ति मनीषिणः कट्याधिभिरधः सप्त सप्तोर्ध्व जगानादिभिः. Great philosophers imagine that the complete planetary system in the universe are displayed of different upper and lower limbs of the universe body of the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So basically, the idea is that Supreme Lord is conscious of every part of his body and nowhere in the creation is there anything beyond his control. So if you see the Virat Swarup, and what is being described is the imagination is that all these 14 lords are essentially parts of the Lord Vishnu, right? It's like, as a human body, we have all these parts, hands and legs and all that, and those are all in our control, right? Generally. And that's how the whole Vishwa, the whole universe is in control of Lord Vishnu. So that's the idea, that's the thinking process. So actually, we have 5 minutes. Rasik Shyam Prabhu ji, आप कुछ बोलना चाहेंगे?
सब कुछ तो एकदम क्लियर है यहाँ पर, बोले जैसा है नहीं, और आप अच्छे से एक्सप्लेन भी कर रहे हैं.
ठीक है, तो I mean it's good. We have 1:30, तो फिर 1-2 श्लोक और कवर करते हैं, है ना? Let's cover 2 more श्लोक्स. Tarun?
पुरुषस्य मुखं ब्रह्म क्षत्रम् एतस्य भावः पूर्वोर्वैश्यो भगवत पद्यहं शूद्रो व्यजत्यते. The Brahmanas represent his mouth, the Kshatriyas his arms, the Vaishyas his thighs, and the Shudras are born of his legs. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, right? So it says like what happens from his mouth, his arms, like the whole Virat Swarup, right? And like how the different material elements are generated. So Bhurlokah kalpitah padbhyam Bhuarloko asya nabitah Ridha sarvaloke ursa Maharloko mahatmanah. So the lower planetary systems up to the limit of the earthly stratum are said to be situated in his legs. The middle planetary systems beginning from the Bhurvalok are situated in his navel. And then still the higher planetary systems occupied by the demigods and highly cultured sages and saints are situated in the chest of the Supreme Lord. So as a Virat Swarup, we saw 14 loks. So how the below 7 loks, and then the above loks, and then the higher loks. How everything is imagined as part of Lord Vishnu's Virat Swarup itself. Yeah, let's just read this Soham. Soham.
There are 14 spheres of planetary systems within this universe. The lower systems are called Pruloka. The middle systems are called Bhuvaloka, and the higher planetary systems called Brahmaloka. The highest planetary system of the universe are called Svarloka, and all of them are situated on the body of the Lord. In other words, no one within this universe is without a relationship with the Lord. Hare.
Hare Krishna, right? So this is the most important aspect mentioned here is no, doesn't matter which universe it is, none of it is without a relationship with the Lord Shri Krishna. Yeah. So we'll continue reading this, how Brahmaji is describing this whole thing as like how the universe has been created. Yeah. So we'll continue. I think tomorrow we should be able to complete Adhyaya 5. Um, and now let's hear a kirtan since we only have 1 minute left. And then we'll see you tomorrow. Yeah.